We're going live now. We're live. Good night, uh, listeners to the Belizean Affairs show. This is show number 23, Thursday, 10th of August of 2023. This is a special edition, an urgent special edition. We have issues that we need to tackle and bring to the attention of the public, as well as to the attention of the people holding our governance power. I'll be the chairman for tonight's special program. I have my cousin, Mr. Gregory Brackett, who will be one of our co-chairman. And Mr. Wade was on with us just now, but we kind of lost him, so I don't know if he'll probably be coming back on. I don't know if he's having problems with his connection or what. But in the meantime, we want to launch because the time is running already. And I just want to introduce Greg, and then I'll offer a little short prayer and we move on. Go ahead, Greg.
Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Welcome to our 23rd edition of Belizean Affair. And tonight, we would like to talk about our government and the Constitution as far as the definitive agreement go, the 11th Amendment and the 7th Amendment. So this is what we're trying to bring forth to the public tonight on an educational basis. Now I will turn back to my cousin so that he can do his opening.
Okay. Before we proceed with the program, I'll just try to ask if we can bow our heads or just hang loose for a minute or so I could utter a short prayer. Divine loving Father, as we come before thy presence once more, we pray that thou mayest listen on to our prayers, that thou mayest grant us the privilege of life, health, and well-being, and that thou mayest continue to bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, wherever they are. We pray that thou mayest continue to bless our country of Belize, its people, and its leadership. Thou knowest our trials and tribulations, thou knowest our hearts, our desires, and even our most secret thoughts. We pray that thou mayest bless this country of the United States as well, its people, and its leadership. That thou mayest bless also Ukraine and Mali and all the other countries around the world where there's problems going on, where people are being hurt sometimes for no reason, where people need food, clothes, shelter, and lodging. Please continue to abide with us. And as we proceed with this program tonight, may it resonate with some people and turn out to be something positive for the well-being of our country and its people. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Normally we'd be having our next program tomorrow, which we still will be having apparently. But we wouldn't have had a program on Thursday because our regular schedules for programs is normally Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But tonight we have an urgent special edition, and we just ask that you bear with us as we go through our 23rd edition. Greg, you want to start off?
Tonight, what I want to present about specifically is the way the present government is trying to use the Belizean Constitution for political gain, as in the 11th Amendment. The 11th Amendment speaks what it says. It says that no one that spent a year in jail in Belize should be able to run for political office. But now we find the present government is trying to stretch that a little bit further for political gains by trying to stipulate that they will add on to it at home and abroad. Let me hear what you have to say about that, my cousin.
Uh, Basically, this purported 11th Amendment has been bantered around for a little while before. And after the government got a little pushback, they kind of put it in the back seat for a little bit until what they would consider to be an appropriate time for them to try and pull it out again to see if they can make some headway with it. The bottom line is this is just one other aspect in which the government continues to fail our country in constantly trying to bring into existence unconstitutional other laws, because there's a reason why I call it other laws, right? Because the Constitution says that any other law that is inconsistent with the Constitution and the Constitution spirit of the law is to be ruled and acknowledged as null and void, so long as it transgresses and is a viral negative effect on the constitutional rights of the people of Belize, then that unconstitutional law is to be looked at as a null and void law and a law that in violation of the basic structure of our governance power. They are trying to implement this 11th Amendment, and they want to modify it at that to include anybody that's been found guilty and serve a sentence abroad that is more than 1 year or 12 months, one and the same. This is being deliberately targeted to create mischief as regards to the leader of the present opposition, who is one of their main nemesis and who they hate with a vengeance, and would just like to dismiss him from their presence. If they can only have this law passed and ruled as being constitutional, which, according to our present laws, decided laws in the country and the present constitution, they would go to court and they would lose again, as our government of Belize are in the habit of doing. They know when they're wrong, but they still push these bogus laws, keep them on the book, and try to use them when it's convenient for them to use it, only to have the law pronounced by the court as being null and void and unconstitutional. The worst offending part is that after these things are ruled as such, even by the highest court, Supreme Court, I think Mr. Wade is right there again. Let me just try to get him in now because, yeah.
That would be the High Court.
Yeah.
Welcome back,
Good
my
night.
brother.
Good night, gentlemen.
Nice,
Yeah,
sir.
I had a internet.
Yeah.
They zapped me just now. You know, they playing with my system. Yeah.
We launched a little bit ago. We didn't get to
Thank
do
you.
our reading, but at some point we could probably stop and do a reading, and include that as because. But anyhow,
Yes.
let
When
me
go ahead.
finish
You guys go
close
ahead.
out
Go ahead.
the thought that we was trying to run with just now, because remember we are doing this for public benefit and the people out there are listening to us, and we don't want to cut them off in the
Yes.
middle of the stream.
Yes.
So let me try and see if I could finish that one thought and then go back to Gregory and then come back to you, Mr. Wade. When we come to you, then you can just do a reading for us and then do your comments
Yes.
at the same
Yes.
time. Okay, so as regards to the 11th Amendment, if they really were serious about wanting to do something like that and do it right, it could probably work out just as a venture, you know. But they're not trying to do it right, and they're not just trying to do it as a venture. They're trying to do it with malice aforethought, as the law and the legal community would call it. Malice aforethought. That is that you're doing something knowingly with malicious intent. Has nothing to do with right or wrong, or good or bad, or moral or ethics. It all comes from evil and deviousness. End of the story. So that is really what they're after. Create mali mischief between the UDP organization or political party, and hopefully at the same time put that law in a place so that when the next election is called, they could try and use that to say, well, Mr. Shine can't run because he was previously adjudged and found guilty and served time that is more than 12 months or a year. And by the time they finish work that out, the election would have been long over with and done and gone, because they wouldn't be holding the election back until that case gets resolved. So it's just about mischief making. These guys are some hijinksers. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not doing anything that is positive and that accrues to the well-being of the country, as we are asking them to do, or as they promised they wanted to do when they wanted us to trust them with the powers. Now that we trust them with the powers and they have it, they pull all kind of shenanigans away. So anyhow, I'll
they're
go
playing
back to
with my
Yes, sir. I noticed, but let's
yeah,
persist.
they're playing. Somebody is just trying to create mischief on my end here. Guys, it's sad to see the level.
The government have the levers control back there, you know.
Yes,
it's not
yes.
It's a public-private entity, and they have. Greg, I just want to throw it back to you for a short comment, and then you let's give it back to Mr. Wade, no? So you could.
Well,
go ahead. I'm listening, guys. Go ahead.
I thank you for your descriptive explanation of what we were speaking about. But let me say this. If the government is so down on the Constitution, instead of trying to violate the rights of an individual in the sense of the leader of the opposition who had a sentence abroad and does not fall within the Constitution at this present time, why can't they go and get the 7th Amendment fixed so that the people in the diaspora can come to Belize and use their fundamental rights of voting in a referendum or any general election? So why are they targeting somebody when they keep boxing out all the people living in the diaspora, but yet they want to go to them with their hand out. They want to go to them about constitution reform, which to me is ludicrous, because if you are using third party at home and abroad, and you are trying to teach the Belizean public at home and abroad their fundamental rights, and you are asking of their opinion to tell you what they would want to take out and what they would want to replace, why teach the fundamental rights if you know the Constitution might change? You might rewrite the whole thing. Some things might come out. So I think this is phony baloney of what the government is doing, except we have stated, I personally have stated on more than one platform, even using a referendum, that we can hold this government accountable based on no confidence. And I believe he's targeting the leader of the opposition because tomorrow he intends to present for a vote on the no confidence that he's implementing. And not only that, as I said before, just like with consultation, they just sent out a memo last night and came today with that, as usual, just last night, and came with it today, as they are noted for. Mr. Wade, let me hear you on that.
My brother, I'll come to that. Because they're trying to make mischief all over on all different points, right? But let me continue. I wanted to do a reading, right? And I was cut off, right? And they're playing with me up and down, up and down. So, you know, I'll continue. I'll as usual, you know, as we open our show, I'll continue from Proverbs short to 27, 16 to 27. Says, the wage of the righteous leads to life, the gain of the wicked to sin. Whoever heed instruction is on the path of life, but he who rejects reproof leads others astray.
Mm-hmm.
The one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and whoever utters slander is a fool. When words are many, transgressions is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is of little worth. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for lack of sense. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he add no sorrow with it. Doing wrong is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. What the wicked dread will come upon him, but the desire of righteous will be granted. When the tempest passes, the wicked is no more, but the righteous is established forever.
Yeah.
That's my reading that I wanted to do. No, Leonard and Gregory, I'll get back to you, Gregory. You know, these people are up to no good, right? They keep, you know, when they're in a little hot water, they bring forth something to throw off the public, right? To buy time, right? Because they are in a lot of hot water, right? Watch the different so-called ministers, they come forward now. And oh yeah, they are in full support with their prime minister, knowing damn well the heat is on, right? Knowing damn well that they are all not together, right? And some of them had said previously that they do not like what's really going on, some of them. But their minister, Mr. Fonseca, sold them. He said everybody is on board with John Briceño, the prime minister. They're fully behind him.
Which is not
right?
true.
Who are these? Which is not true.
Because they wouldn't
who are these?
Mr. Chair, how we know it's not true is because they wouldn't be leaking out the documents to show how treacherous he is if they were all with him.
Exactly. Greg, he says, look at the overnight mischief, right? Showing off people again, you know, overnight memo for a house meeting today, when the real thing is tomorrow, you know. Exactly. Right? The real thing is tomorrow. They're gonna try all kind of thing, like you said there, Greg. What we want is the 7th Amendment, Mr. Briceño. Right? That's what we want. 7th Amendment. But yes, you go, like you said, Greg, to the diaspora and beg. Right? What kind of face you guys have? They're all two-faced, backstabbing, knowing damn well you don't care about the diaspora, right? But again, it's just a ploy, right? Now, who do these people fool, guys? They fool their fanatics, right? They fool their cronies and family, They don't fool the rider populists. We already catch on to them, so they will come with all kind of shenanigans, right? Trying to buy time, right? Trying to come with lots of stuff that is really not important, right? Buying time. Go ahead, Leonard. Go ahead, Leonard.
We have
Before you proceed, I'd like to
gentlemen.
say good evening. I would like to say good evening to Mr. Gregory Morrison.
That's what I was about to
Thank you
do.
for tuning in to Belizean Affairs. This is our 23rd edition.
Good evening, sir. Good
Go
evening,
ahead,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That's what I was
But
about to do. I just put him up there to acknowledge his presence, among us, and his greetings, stating good evening to all. To all. He's a distinguished gentleman
sure is.
with whom I've been as panelist members on other shows before, and maybe one of these days somehow we could get him to not necessarily leave his show, because that wouldn't be right to ask of him, but at least let him know that the floor is open
Open.
as an invitation for him to spend some time with us on whatever subject of his choice, or whenever the time becomes available to him, because minds like his shouldn't go to waste, and we'll gladly accept his presence among us to help us educate our people and to contribute, because the gentleman brings a substantial wealth of knowledge and experience. But that being said, I want to go back to the issue of the moment.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
before
Go
you
ahead.
do that,
Go ahead.
can I muddy the water a little bit? Because Mr. Wade have me kind of hype up now.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would like to say this to the government of Belize. In your 2.5 years, you will be facing a Senate inquiry. The no confidence that Mr. Barrow is presented to you is not coming from him, sir. When you had your caucus, and your caucus is behind you, and your minister is behind you, that is not the voice of the people. Mr. Prime Minister, you have a no confidence because the fuel price is high. You have a no confidence because crime rate is high. You have a no confidence because you cannot deal with the interests of the people in Belize. And I can guarantee you, coming from your mouth, the same words you said when you were running for the election in 2020, I want to recall, and I want you to remember your words. Sir, if you think that the public have confidence in you, your words, call the election now. I would love to see you do that. Call the
Amen to that.
election now.
Amen to
Go
that.
ahead, Mr. Chairman.
You got me rolling there, because you got me rolling. Because I stipulated to the good gentleman before that the best advice that he could have been given and should accept is when I proposed to him that, in the interest of his own party and the country at large, as a matter of fact, that he should just demit office and do so with whatever, as gracefully as possible, with whatever dignity he had left. But no, that's not. That's too much to ask of somebody who is so small-minded. They can't appreciate that kind of request. He has to go on a so-called secret trip, to which, as of today date that we are having this panel discussion, he has not reported back to the Belize people what that trip was all about yet. He refused to have the reporters them ask him any relevant question as regards to the purpose of that trip and what he did when he was on that trip, who he went and meet, what did they discuss that was relevant to him taking a trip on the public dime at that, because he didn't go on holiday. He went to do business. His own, of course, not ours. That is to assure the tourist people then that he's prepared, if need be, to suborn the country's governance powers that he's in control of. So long as they're willing to work with him, he's willing to step in the breach on behalf of Portico, which is one and the same as far as I'm concerned, and negotiate on behalf of a private entity with the powers of governance of the country subordinated to back them up, to bring about this dastardly and treacherous endeavor of the Portico port, magical Belize, right? Is that what they call it? Or am I calling it the wrong name?
Port Magic.
Port Magic. Sorry, the magical Belize might want to sue me now, and they will probably be in good order to do so because I use the name in context of, or within the same breath as describing a treacherous, evil endeavor. When in fact, then people at the other port, they're probably trying to complete their effort and just move on and try and be a success at it. But they have been hamstrung and hoping that this next new port now that the Prime Minister is trying to push would get built and get authorized to operate ahead of the other people that have an interest in developing port tourism in Belize City. And with the laws in place, within 25 miles, no other tourist port would be allowed by the government. Now, of course, I cannot believe that they'll leave that part in a new agreement where they try to put together, because they know that that's not going to fly. But going back to the port itself, as of today, that we are having this discussion again. Those people have not stopped working on that job site. All the flack that the Prime Minister got because of trying to push this bogus agreement that they were blaming on the UDP because one of the UDP minister was suborned in order to get it processed. They are still hell bent on finding a way to bring it about. How they get to the point of suborning enough members of cabinet, whom as a majority had refused to go along with the initial effort, how they get enough of them subordinated to the point where Mr. Fonseca, who by my measure is a very intelligent gentleman and should be a very smart gentleman and should not have came out and said what he said today, which is they're all in support of the Prime Minister, which indicates that they're all suborning our country to the interests and efforts of the Prime Minister. He gone have a meeting with them people and come back. And he just telling them when he think that they need to hear so that they could go along with him program. And all, like I said before, even the backbenchers them, because the meeting that they had was not just about cabinet. They had meetings within caucus, the House. And as I stipulated earlier, on many occasions, on these different shows, that so long as he could have gotten that process out of cabinet, he had enough people, backbenchers, who may not know or would not necessarily know anything that has to do with the process of this port activity, but would be willing to provide him the backup in order to get this stuff passed through Congress. And here we are today being vindicated by them with their own words, vindicating and validating what I stipulated on so many occasions before. That yes, their caucus has agreed that they will be there with the Prime Minister throughout the process, and that they have such confidence in the Prime Minister. After almost, well, I was going to say almost voting on no confidence, but it's not. It wasn't just almost voting on no confidence. In the wider meaning of the whole no confidence process, because for all intents and purposes, that's what they did when they stopped him in cabinet and forced him to send the stuff for further review, and him coming to the House of Representatives and symbolically tearing up some old paper. It may not have necessarily even been a copy of the thing, much less the original, but stood there grandstanding in the House of Representatives as the leader of government business and tell the whole world while tearing the stuff that agreement was dead and gone. As a matter of fact, they classify it as a dead horse. So when we were railing up with them about it and why the Jerusalem legal recommendation was stifled, they said we don't even need to discuss that anymore. That's what the Prime Minister said. For all intents and purposes, he don't even want to hear about it anymore because it's a dead horse. While all the while along, telling us it was a dead horse, he himself was giving the dead horse mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The horse was dead for so long, according to him, that we shouldn't bother with it or worry about it. And the horse was stinking to high hell. But there he was giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, trying to bring it back to life. Gang and plea on behalf of political or private organization to which we government, according to Mr. Jerusalem, have no shares in that political thing. Just like what happening at the hospital when they take our money and buy, we have no shares in there. We get no service out of it. Then get service, But that's not the point that I'm trying to drive home here right now. So let me not, distract or sidestep. Let me stay with the point or the focus, because they would hope that we lose interest, lose focus, and pay attention to all the rest of shenanigans that they're carrying on with to distract from the main focus of this issue. That is that the Prime Minister himself was caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And now you have all his merry men rallying around him, including the ones that try to stop him and save us from the major catastrophe initially, are now suborned and rallying to his defense, as Mr. Fonseca said, not only those in cabinet, but those in his caucus in the House, which means for all intents and purposes, as I was pointing out, very likely he have enough to carry the day if he decided to push this thing forward. And I shouldn't qualify and say if he decide, because there's no if or but about it. His intention
Mr.
is
Chairman,
to burn even the government of the country to make sure. Right now, I'll deal right now. Right, to suborn the powers of the country to get this dastardly deed done, even if we have to get left on the hook for millions of dollars in a lawsuit. They want to get for their money. To hell with we. But like I said to him before, be careful. This process is not like the other processes before. We're not at the same station in life, and it's not going to end well. Go ahead, Greg.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a problem with that, and a serious one, because if the Minister of Education can stand up and say that they are behind the Prime Minister as well as the caucuses, then they are telling me that the whole government
Suborned?
has a no confidence. You know why? I always say this whenever ministers or anyone speaks, you listen to what they say, and
Tell
they
from
would
yourself.
be telling on themselves. Here we have a minister telling on the whole government, because what he is saying when he said that is they who are there to legislate cannot
Mhm.
legislate, that they have to go by the executive power of what the government is saying. So they
Mhm.
are simply saying the prime minister is telling us to pass this and we are going to pass it through.
Mhm.
So when they are using the term legislate, there will be no legislation. They will simply pass it this second time around
Mhm.
because they didn't get it done the first time. And
If, even
also,
Greg, in addition to that,
mhm,
even if they're not being told the truth or are being bamboozled and information is being withheld from them, so long as they go ahead and have such a confidence in a man, knowing what he did to them before, that they will lend their support to put the country over a barrel, they are assuming accountability for the outcome, and they themselves must be held accountable. Go ahead, sir. Sorry for interrupting.
no, which bring me back to the Minister of Education. How can you, as a Minister of Education, get up and say something like that when I personally, who is highly educated, have no confidence in you? And you know why? Because you were the one that says when it came to the terrorists that you guys brought in,
Mhm.
that experts has tested this man and they all say he's reformed. That is exactly what you are doing to the prime minister, why this government would back him. You are telling the world that expert, any doctor, if you call them such, can look at anybody and tell them what they are thinking before they do it. That's highly impossible. And this is where we are heading. We have we have a government with no confidence, whether we like it or not. And I said it on more than one time, as educated as one may be, it does not mean they have the capacity to run a country. And here it is falling apart. It's really falling apart, Mr. Wade.
So right on that, Gregory and Leonard, you know, like you rightfully says, who are these guys to be speaking in that manner, right? Um, are they speaking for their constituency?
No,
Are they speaking for Leonard, Gregory, and myself?
no, no, no.
So we are not counted. So they could, just because of partisan, to straight along party lines, right? Just to play politics, just to follow the leader, and ignore the real problem, right? That is uncalled for, right? I hope that these super majority, what they call themselves, acknowledge the evil that they're doing and acknowledge that 3/4 of this country, right now as we speak, would like the People's United Party gone based on the things that they have done to us under what 2.5 years of their term, right? They have done nothing right by the poor people and the less fortunate. Nothing right. They had not made life better for the poor people, right? All they have brought upon this nation, the poor and less fortunate, is misery, suffering, poverty. I listened to this man from the south where I was born. The man, Mr. Ricana, Minister Ricana, because like I say, I have a hard time calling these people honorable. That word honorable means a lot to me. And they are not honorable in my view, right? They are a bunch of evil people, self-greed. I listened to that man. He talk about unemployment is at what? The Prime Minister says it's 5% and under 5%. He says something like 19%. So which one of them is telling the truth? Which one of them? Now, the people of this nation do not trust this government, but they have a hard time bringing back the UDP for the things they have done and their present leadership, right? I mean, talking real truth. Now, the people of this nation is in a bind, right? Are we going to get rid of the PUP? Yes. But damn, who will we bring back? When you consider all the ills and the evil that the UDP had done to this nation also, right? So here I am. I use my little time now to call on independent. Gregory says, call election now because that's what that man, Mr. Briseno, said when he was in opposition. I want him to call election now, and I'm calling on the independent thinkers. Like one man come to mind, Dickie Bradley, put your name up for Prime Minister, man. Right? Put your name up for Prime Minister. You have a better love for this country and people and poor people than this businessman. I'm talking truth, right? Call election now, and I call on the independent thinkers. Put your name up now. The people are tired of the UDP, and for sure as hell, going to get rid of the UDP, PUP in the next election. So that is truth, right? You think he's going to call election? He's going to try that? But like I say, a vote of no confidence is not going to happen because of the super majority, and they are all together despite they ignoring the cry out there of the people, right? So they also, guys, are putting their asses in jeopardy for the next election, right? If they don't do right. And the worst is yet to come, because this is just the beginning of the PUP ills. This is just the beginning, because it'll get worse when all these court action start taking place. It's going to get worse. is coming. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, based on what Mr. Wade is saying, I would like to say this. I don't believe that this government wants to head into a general election. That is why he's so adamant on constitution reform. Because
I don't need money.
all the things that he's showing is a telltale sign. He does not want to fully implement UNCAP. He passed the Civil Assets and an Explain Wealth Bill. He's only limited to 12 years, not want to go back to all the corruption that happened in their past party.
Mhm.
He's doing all these things. He has snubbed the main attorney that is supposed to head the Belizean delegation at the ICJ. And he wants to do all these things before he get a verdict outcome from the ICJ,
Correct.
which is the most important thing. But I can tell you what they can do good. And I hope the people who is living in poverty and the people at home and abroad can hold them accountable. Because this present government has critiqued the past government about borrowing. And here we go. Every time they travel abroad, every time they go to the house, it's to do what?
Get money.
Borrow.
Borrow.
And
Borrow.
the last government, they spoke about that. Mr. Borrowing, now they using his name outrightly. You know? But what
And,
use?
and you listen,
What
you
good
guys,
use?
let me say this. You listen to every one of those ministers that sits up there and have their turn to say when they are beginning to speak. They always refer back to what the UDP had done. You need to stop that. That's why people had elected UNO to do better, right? So you know, UNO need to stop play stupid, man, right? Those words are played out because the UDP had borrowed, now UNO they borrow too, right? Because the UDP had done that, UNO they do it too. Don't UNO know why the people elect UNO, man? To do better, man. Are you guys doing better? Hell no, right? Hell no, UNO need to go. All UNO need to go, right? We want a new system, not a UDP system or a PUP system, right? And I hope and pray that Mr. Briseno do not get his wishes, Belize to become a republic. I hope and pray, right? Because he's hell-bent, like you said, Leonard and Gregory. He's hell-bent. He's getting all this thing together because he's pushing for that to happen. So when that happens, who can touch them? Who can touch whoever president that is? Whether it's a Briseno or a Julius or a Fonseca or a Cordell or a whoever the hell it is. Right? Right? Then you know damn well that nobody could touch them once they push their agenda through. And you rightfully says Gregory, they do not want to touch UNCAP, but that was one of the main topics when they were in opposition.
Mhm.
So how can we trust UNO? That is just one example. How can people trust UNO, man? Lie to the Belizean people and UNO go up there and lie. Right? Throw dust in the people's eyes. UNO use and abuse the people's asset. Use and abuse the taxpayers' money. Just like the past administration. Right? That's why in India right now they have called the Prime Minister for a no confidence vote too. But he was lucky. Same crap playing out in India. Right? Right now that is playing out. Be careful, Belize. Be very careful, Mr. PUP government be very careful of what this country is going to set up to do, right? Be very careful. And I'd wish that when we stop talk about the people. No, the people say and the people want. No, the hell with that. The people do not want what they do. So we stop use that name. Say you, Mr. Fonseca, or you, Mr. Julius, or you, Cordell. That's what we want. Talk about the people. The people means everybody. I for sure don't like what the hell you guys are doing to my country that I have served and I have lived, born, just like you all. You need to stop it, man. I call for a new system in this country, man. People, run uprising. Let's get rid of the People's United Party and the UDP party. Say no more. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you know what, Mr. Chairman? To Mr. Wade.
Go ahead.
Nobody went to the government and tell them they wanted to move the Queen head from the money.
Mm-hmm.
They said the
Nobody
people
went
go,
to the
Leonard.
government. Nobody went to the government and tell them they want to reform the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Has
See
any
what I'm
past
saying?
government since 1981 independence has ever come to the people with that? When you have a government with a super majority that is hell bent on doing constitution reform, knowing that the only thing they can do with their super majority is to create laws, okay? And they cannot create any laws that is inconsistent with the Constitution. Will use that super majority to attack the leader of the opposition. We must know who we are dealing with, because in the same way they are using the Constitution, talking about teaching the public about fundamental rights to attack the people into turning them into sovereign citizens by asking their opinion. Tell me what you want to take out of the Constitution, what you want to put in, but yet not know
Big
what
secret.
the public might say at home and abroad. You want to come with a law in violation of the Constitution, which will be inconsistent. You cannot use the Constitution for political gain. Period. This is where we are, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I just want to go back to playing thing here from Channel 5. So I hope that they're not assuming because I'm trying to give them back them credit, right? For at least they being the originator, the piece of video that I'm not gonna play the video itself on the screen. I'm just gonna play the video loud enough, and hopefully that people will be able to hear the context of what is it that we're saying, and that we're not attributing anything to anybody that didn't go so. Just a second. Let me raise the volume.
So, what we had a caucus yesterday because we were preparing for a house meeting on Friday. So we had a parliamentary caucus, and coming out of that parliamentary caucus, we issued a declaration of confidence, just to say loudly and clearly to the nation that we stand firmly behind our Prime Minister, behind our leader, and we have absolute confidence in his leadership and the leadership of our government.
Okay. So
The cabinet,
that's basically
parliamentary caucus as the Prime Minister and the leader of our party.
So basically, that is a reporting done by Channel 5, reporting the words spoken by Mr. Fonseca himself. as regards to what we are complaining about, that the Prime Minister went and had his meetings with his people abroad, discussed what he had to discuss with them on not representing Belize, but representing a private entity at that, Portico, and the people of Portico. He is putting himself smack in the middle of their negotiation, where Portico, as a private entity that we don't have no shares in as a government, should have been negotiating with them, the people that they have their MOU with, right? They have a memorandum of understanding with these people in order to let these people come and help them get this port completed, so that these people could make use of that port and they could get a lead change out of the process. But for all intents and purposes, the Prime Minister is acting as if he is a interested party in this negotiation, and putting and suborning all of we going powers behind this effort. When we tell the man, we don't want to do that, but Mr. Fonseca go and tell me, oh yeah, they want support and they have confidence in her. And because we, the people, dared to have elected them, believing that they were going to do what they said they was going to do, now that they have the powers, they will go ahead and do what the hell they want, and the hell with we. How treacherous, how outrageous. It's a tragedy that we, the Belizean people of the 40 years of independence, are going backwards.
But Mr. Chairman, that will still be unconstitutional.
Of course, we know that.
It will still be in violation of our constitution when it comes to open tenure. And you know that the public should know that if they read the constitution. You have to have open tenure. These people should not be able to bring in their own workers and do all that they want to do. That is in violation of our constitution. That's first one.
But they're doing
So
work,
if they intend to legislate,
they're doing work right now on the site without any permission or permit. And while their agreement is being questioned and the government, the Prime Minister tore it up, they're still going ahead and doing the work. So for all intents and purposes, what the Prime Minister did as a puppet show there in the house the other day didn't lend any credence to those being the facts, that he tore that stuff up and they were going to start from scratch and start a new stuff. Because all the while from then till now and before then, they were going ahead and doing their work on that job site. And right now, they don't have an agreement. And they still go ahead and work and do what they want to do. To hell with we. And the Prime Minister is enabling them to move on and do that. He's not stopping them. He's not telling them to wait until the process gets consummated. He's not doing his job on behalf of we, the Belizean people.
Mr. Chairman,
he's doing their job.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
To suborn our powers? Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Wade.
Mr. Chairman, let me, give me a little minute now, please.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Based on all that, the work is going on, and tomorrow what's going to happen, right? Because from the time he tore up that agreement, as of today, they all sat together, and the proceed was equally distributed. Whatever the goodies are, equally distributed. So tomorrow they will be right behind the Prime Minister, and I'm pretty sure none of them will have the balls nor the guts to tell the Prime Minister what they really want to tell him, right? And then they will use the public, that the public is okay with it, which in fact the public is not.
Them.
Yes, right?
Not to do what they're doing.
Exactly, right? So they're, like you said, they're hell-bent. He's hell-bent to get through that. And the little tweaking that they're going to make, who will stop them? Like I said, the man, what's his name? The rich man who have this country at bay, he already says that's the retirement gig, right? He has his country by the balls, that man, right? So tomorrow, guys, in my opinion, there is nothing new is gonna happen, right? Like I said, they already ironed that out. Each one of them already get what they supposed to have gotten for that support.
Mr. Wade, I would
Say
like
no
to find
more.
out. I would like to find out what is the price of subordination. I would like to find out what is the
Yes.
price of subordination.
I would take it a
Yeah.
step higher, treason, because that's what that is. I could prove whenever I say something, I could prove it to the public at home and abroad, you know. Because you see what happened in the verdict on the sugar cane, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Let me say this to you, sitting here with me virtually. This will be inconsistent with the Constitution because part in that definitive agreement that says no other cruise port terminal can be within 25 miles
25 miles.
of Port Magic. That is
Good.
unlawful. It will be unconstitutional.
One bigger one than that.
My point is,
I want to take your king of clubs, and I'm dropping on ace of heart.
yeah, yes,
I hope the heart no bleed.
they have been doing this to the Constitution for some time now, my brothers. They
So
don't
we
care.
make I drop this one quickly.
Go ahead, sir.
These people, the agreement that was had before was saying that Mr. Contreras was signing on to that agreement, stipulating based on the agreement wording that the government will have to make laws to facilitate certain things that will happen within the pages of that agreement, to the point where the government will create new laws, suborn the country's constitution, undermine the country's economic well-being by not being able to collect various taxes and other economic benefits that should have accrued to the country in order for us to manage and run our country and pay our bills. So how the hell then get to that point of power playing for we government, to the point where we legislators would have been suborned and forced to make laws to facilitate their venture being successful based on how that agreement was written up?
Real sad.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
Real sad.
Do they think that we are that stupid? In 2023, they think that we still back off and leave it.
Yes, yes.
Contain my emotions and I don't run off at a real crash.
But Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, take it over, Greg.
we know
Believe me,
we
brother.
know that based on the Constitution and what is happening, the Prime Minister personally is using his office for gains. You cannot do that.
Gregory, let me
You
say, he
cannot
keep
do
doing
that.
it. He keep doing it,
You
Greg.
cannot
And
do
Leonard,
that. And I want give you back a bombshell now.
Go ahead.
He is not listening to the learned gentleman from King's County, Mr. Jarasowicz, which told him it is no good. The horse is dead.
Mhm.
He's hard-headed. Because you know why? If you intend to legislate, what you are telling me, that all you are doing is plagiarizing from the previous document. It means that you are already telling me and the public, they already have the environmental clearance, they already inspect
It was all
Bingo!
illegal and
It
bogus and
cannot
unlawful.
happen. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. Because if you do that, then Mr. Contreras is free to walk. You know why? You just legalize a bogus document called a
But
definitive agreement.
Gregory, the man tell us to our face, right? The man tell us to our face that he will not deal with Contreras until he finish giving them people in port. So that when they deal with Contreras, if ever, after he don't use this Contreras document as we stipulated earlier, and as you pointed out correctly, and plagiarize that document, legitimize that document, breathe back the life into that dead horse. As stink as that horse is, to high hell. Why is he putting himself in that situation to suborn the laws of a weak country and disgrace for himself and put his political party at a disadvantage and put a weak country at a disadvantage and wield the powers of a weak country on behalf of a private entity that we have no shares in, to put us over a barrel and abuse us for decades to come? What's wrong with these people? What's wrong with his colleagues in cabinet and those who are in his caucus, who are lending their support and the weight and power of the people who elected them, and now whom they are claiming because they got elected by those people, they are speaking on behalf of those people, when in fact they're speaking about things that they didn't tell the people that they was going to be doing. So from the get-go, they didn't lie. And they are being contrivant and nefarious. And as a matter of fact, as Gregory stipulated earlier, to me, as far as I'm concerned, you're correct in stating or stipulating that it's a treasonous act because it's been done to us with our eyes wide open. Because we can't take back the power for that. I asked that already. Is it because he have the impression that maybe we have to wait till 5 years is up before we vote them out? Do they not hear what we have been telling them, that with 20,000 people we could have and have them be dismissed? But they won't go. We will have to probably go and physically take them and kick them out. They want to pull on Donald Trump away. Lose the election then and still not want to go. And what happened then?
Well, you know
What's
what?
supposed to be happening, right?
Mr. Way speak about Black Wednesday. I'm saying this, and I'm saying this, I said it before. We saw what happened in Louisiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Prime Minister, please don't let the black people unite. And you're no confidence because you're not doing what you was elected for. Plain and simple.
Amen to that.
As the PM of this country, you should not be involved in any foreign investment by private entity because it shows that you are using your office for gains. So if you are doing that, sir, please, and you made that come to light when you try to use executive power to push through this agreement the first time through cabinet. That's my closing for the night.
This will be my closing. Each of these QP individuals who are currently elected are exposing themselves to the potential of being recalled. Not with 20,000 votes, because one of them have 2,000 in a division. Like the Fort George division, Mr. Osha, right? The bottom line is that with a percentage of vote in a Fidel division, they could be facing an early election to dispossess them of their office for the very illegal gang-related activities that they are carrying on with in cabinet and will attempt to do tomorrow in the House of Representatives. Don't these people understand what we're trying to tell them and have been telling them over and over and over? Are they waiting to see it happen and still believe that after it happened, it shouldn't have happened? Are they that dumb and stupid not to accept when people are trying to give them a way out instead of having to go the whole mile? For them to take the way out and save themselves from the sword of Damocles, because it's coming and it's going to fall on their heads. Not by their wishes, but by the choices that they make. Whether they're making those choices under duress, or whether they are making those choices of their free will because they are being stubborn, or whatever the circumstances are. The bottom line is, we, the people of the country, do not want them to do what they are trying to do with the powers that we have invested in them. And come hell or high water, if they continue down this road, they will just have to suffer the consequence. It's as simple as that. Bottom line, there's no two ways about it. We don't want what they're trying to push down our throat, and we're not going to swallow it. So
It haven't been long since
who Mr. Fonseca was referring to today as being in support of this evil, tend to the consequences, because there will be consequences.
I don't think we need to go back with the 17th proposal, right? And what happened, right? Like Mr. Witt said, Black Wednesday.
The 17 proposals, the heads of agreement. We have a history. We have a history. The only history we don't have yet is on total revolution. And these fools pretend that that is not a possibility in a free country. In fact, we don't have to have a revolution in a free country. All we got to do is take the hell out what the maligning cancer is. Excise it. Do what a doctor would do to try and save the life of the country or of the people. Cut what needs to be cut and dump it off. Sometimes when you have a foot gangrene, you cut off part of the foot and you cut off another part and you keep cutting off until the end of the day you end up to lose your life because of the same one gangrene. We have a gangrene and a cancerous situation in our free governance system right now. And if these idiots are not taking warning on heed, then they have to attend to the consequences. They feel too high and mighty. Mr. Wade, you're closing, sir. I do overdo it. Let me get off myself.
Guys, I like the conversation. Again, it's always a pleasure to be in your company, Leonard and Gregory, right? And my closing is that, Mr. Prime Minister, people had caught on to you, Mr. John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize. In my view, you have been using your office for enrichment, right? You did it with your smart company, took away what's from BTL and you send it to your company. Unless if you could prove to the nation that you do not own smart, right? So, keep proving yourself over and over. You're a report war, right? You want to political and constitutional reform. You want to, you are not, delivering what you had promised, right? You forget UNCAC, right? So now, I could tell you where the real emergency in this country is. Poverty, man. That's an emergency, right? Healthcare, that's an emergency. The education department, right? That's an emergency. the unemployment. That's an emergency, right?
Hi.
I like to say this, that, you know, you guys are treading on thin ice. Gregory mentioned, you know, Black Wednesday, and we had uprising before, had happened before to a magnitude. This time around, it will be worse because we have different people in our country who are used to these kinds of things, right? Be very careful what you guys are doing. Be very, very, very careful. That's my closing. Back to you, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
I would like to say this. If the present government think he have confidence in the people, like I say his words, call the election now. Let's see where you stand.
And
Simple as
again,
that.
1 minute on that, Greg. I back to you, right? If he does that, I call on one man, like I said, for an independent prime minister or an independent president, Dickie Bradley, right? That's just one man came to mind. And I call, before I leave, call on all independent thinkers. This is your time now. People are tired of the PUP and tired of the UDP, right? They're only doing it now because that is all that is there. Nobody want to put up, right? Nobody want to put up what I call on you now to put up, right? This is your time. People are tired of both political parties. And as for the third party,
you know what,
we do not have any.
Mr. Chairman, we're in a state of emergency and the killing is still happening in different areas. So why never had a full state of emergency?
There you go.
It's a no-brainer.
There you go. Truth. Right?
Yo, Mike.
Yeah. The state of emergency, as I previously pointed out, was never intended to achieve the objective that they attributed to it. It was just a matter of trying to be punitive to some of the gang members that did not belong to the PUP group of gangs. That's all it was about. Otherwise, they may go and pick up all the known gang members that the police have on in file. But Mr. Chester Williams was willing to concede that some of the people they were not going to pick up because they consider them to be trying to work with them in the LIU. And as a result, they were supposed to be considered as law-abiding citizens. They're gang members. Am I right or wrong?
So right on that,
That's what the law
100%.
says. The bogus law when they write or when they put together say if you belong to a gang, they could come and arrest you because of gang affiliation and gang membership. You never say if you're in a gang and you commit a crime. Those are the ways when you interpret those issues, is how you come to the conclusion that the whole thing is a farce and that they don't play games. That they don't have, that the SOE was never intended for the purpose of which they declared it. Because there was no need to declare an SOE in the first place, because in declaring the SOE, they hurt other people. They had the power to go after whoever is committing crimes under the basic existing laws. But they refuse to do their job. They just want to play shenanigans and play games and pretend that they do something. And as you said, Mr. Wade, the killing still goes on. The killings then could have been stopped long decades ago if only them get serious about allowing consequences to be had by the people when they commit the crimes and the murders. Because yes,
Past and present. Past and present.
People fear for their own life. And then I want to wear their
Look,
life. So then I try to do better. But anyhow, go ahead, Greg. For another 1 minute
but
or 2 minutes.
first, look what happened to Chief Justice Kante from the past government. Then he turned around and wrote him and tell him, you did not want me to take care of these people, but you will see what will happen over the years. They will
Exactly.
become the chicken bone in your throat.
And what's happening
Exactly.
today? Exactly that.
Guys,
And
no,
listen to me. Don't get me wrong, but you see this judge that went up against them in this sugar thing? Beware, she might not be around, because this is what past and present government do in Belize.
exactly.
When they
Exactly.
have
Right on that.
judges that do not rule in their favors,
You find
bingo.
ways to
Yes.
stifle them.
Guys, before I leave, I just like to say this, tomorrow will be historic to see which one of these area representatives have the balls and the guts to stand up to John Briceño tomorrow.
I mean, look, we laugh just now when you said that.
Right?
When you said tomorrow, Mr. Weird, because
It's very
when you said
interesting.
tomorrow, my mind going on the program that we have planned for tomorrow. And that's why
Okay, let me do this closing quick
tomorrow.
again. Let me do this closing quick again. Good night to the people at home and abroad. Thank you for tuning in and watching the 23rd edition, a special edition of Belizean Affair. Tonight, again, I was sitting with my co-hosts virtually, Mr. Wade and Mr. Brackett, and we want to wish you guys a pleasant good night, and hopefully you will tune in tomorrow night, the same time, where we will again try to educate you, the people, and what is happening in the Belizean jewel. Thank you again and have a great night.
Invite the public to come and sit and listen to us with a bag of popcorn or a dish of popcorn, no?
Yes, yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Good night.
everybody for listening,
Good night
for
to
tuning in. Thanks,
Good night.
for supporting. Thanks,
Thank
Greg,
you.
for supporting
You're
as
welcome.
panelists and for enlightening our people and giving our people something to think about that will help them to make our country a better country at the end of the day. Thank
Amen.
God. God bless
Good night.
Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad. Amen. It was a nice